Kia ora. This is the second part of question 1 from the 2021 probability exam. So it's still looking at these issues to do with coffee drinking and sleep for school students. And we've got the survey from the first question of 300 students, senior high school students around New Zealand. So it's probably worth going and watching part 1 of the video if you haven't already. If you feel like it's too easy for you, just put it on double speed. Okay, so in this part, we've got some new information. So we've got the table repeated from before, and then we're told the following stuff. It's well known that many of the popular energy drinks consumed by teenagers in New Zealand contain caffeine in even higher doses than coffee. The same survey also asked about the consumption of energy drinks, and it found that 36 students didn't drink coffee, but did drink energy drinks, and only 7 of these had no sleep issues. So then we have to fill out this table here. Okay, so we have to use these facts and the information in table 1. So I'm going to show you the order I went in here. Well, the first thing I did is I just had a bit of a look at the table. So here we've got sleep issues, no sleep issues, and the total. We've got 300 here. But this time we've got drink coffee, and then we've got don't drink either coffee or energy drinks, and here we've got energy drinks but not coffee. Okay, so what can we say? Well, we've got 36 students who didn't drink coffee but did drink energy drinks. So that's going to go in this row here. That means that I can put 36 in here. So that's thing 1. Now, there are a few different ways to work here, but we were told that out of those 36, only 7 of them had no sleep issues. So energy drinks, not coffee, and no sleep means that the 7 is going to go in here. And from here, it's quite easy to fill in the other numbers, right? Because we know that the rows and the columns have to add up to the totals. So here, this number must add to 36 when I put 7 with it. So this has got to be 29. Working down the column, I can see that the total who have sleep issues is 143. And so these two use up 97. And that means that this number here is 143, take away 97, which is 46. Okay, so the first part of this question is just to fill in the table. So we've got 46 here. Now, what can I do next? A couple of things I can do. I know that there are 157 who've got no sleep issues. So 54 plus 7 is 61. 157 minus 61 is equal to, what did I get? 96. So we can chuck that there. And lastly, we can add across here. So we've got 46 and 96, which is going to give me 142. Now, there are some different ways that you could have got there, but you need to end up with those answers overall. And I think it's an achieved tick for filling out those numbers in the table. So again, it's a reading comprehension exercise. Really, you've just got to make sure you slowly work through the information up above. I'll just get rid of some of my mess. Okay, so now we're ready to go on to the next part of the question and the harder part. So that was the first bit, right? Use the facts and the information to complete the table. And then if there were 850 senior students in this school who don't drink either coffee or energy drinks, how many would be expected to have sleep issues? So what I've got to work out here is the probability that a student who doesn't drink coffee, so we're conditioning ourselves on the ones who didn't drink coffee or energy drinks, what's the probability that that type of student has sleep issues? So again, think about a big hat, that's some kind of sun hat, and which names are going in here? Well, it's only the ones who don't drink either coffee or energy drinks, right? And so that is just going to be these 142 people here, don't drink coffee or energy drinks. And then we want to know how many of them had sleep issues. So it's going to be 46 out of 142. Now, as I've said, it's fine to leave it like that. If that is just making you feel like your skin's crawling from not simplifying a fraction, we could simplify it to 23 over 71. And we could get it as a decimal, and again go to 4 decimal places, don't round too hard. So there you go, that's that one. So that's the first bit. So I think all of that together was a merit question, but we haven't finished actually, so we haven't got any merit points yet. More importantly, we haven't finished solving the problem. So if there were 850 senior students in this school, blah blah blah, so now we've found the probability. So the probability is 0.3239 or 32.32. we could go with 32.4%. So we're going to have, we would expect 32.4% of 850 will have sleep issues. So 0.3239 or 0.324 times 850, and I got 275.35. Now we have to answer that in context, so the answer is going to be 275 students would be expected to have sleep issues. Sorry for the very bad handwriting. There you go. It's not that bad in real life, it's just bad on my laptop. Okay, so now for the excellence question. And if you're watching this and you're in our class this year, we haven't done this yet, but it's not too bad. And I'm just going to have to now put those numbers back in that I've just taken out by mistake. But first we're going to just read through the question really slowly. So a newspaper article claimed that teenagers in New Zealand who consume drinks containing caffeine regularly are nearly twice as likely to have sleep-related issues as those who don't. So we're working out two probabilities here, and we want to see if one is nearly twice as big as the other. And that's called working out the relative risk. But relative risk is just a fancy name for something that is actually pretty intuitive, right? So what we're doing here is we're going to get two different probabilities, and they're going to be pretty easy ones. And then we're going to see how they compare. We're going to do the big one divided by the little one. So what do we want to find? Well, this time we're looking at whether the teenagers who have caffeine regularly, not coffee, but caffeine, right? So finally, we're talking about caffeine overall and not just coffee and energy drinks separately. And that's an important thing to notice in here. So do they consume caffeine regularly? So we're going to find the probability that the ones who have caffeine have sleep issues. And then we're going to find the probability that the ones who don't have caffeine, so I write it like that, so that means not caffeine, we'll work out what those two probabilities are, and then we'll compare them. Okay, so what do I need? I need my table. I'll just change my pen back to the orange one. So the probability of sleep issues given that you have caffeine. So think again about our stupid sun hat where we're putting the names of all the people who satisfy this condition. So all the students in the survey who regularly drink caffeinated drinks. Well, it's not just coffee now, right? So we're putting in the 122 people who drink coffee, but also the 36 who drink energy drinks and not coffee. And then we're working out who's got sleep issues. And so for that, we're going to have to think about the 68 people from the coffee group and the 68 from the energy drink group. So it's going to be 122 plus 36 and 68 plus 29, which gives us 97 over 158, or 0.6139. Okay, now we're going to work out the other one, which is the probability of sleep issues given no caffeine. So this is a bit easier because I'll just get rid of the little circles around the things. So looking at this, the row that has got no caffeine is this one here. So there are 142 people in my hat and 46 of them have got sleep issues. I think we've worked that probability out before. Yeah, we have. Okay, so we're back to our old friend, 0.3239. So that's the first part of the question done. Now let's look at the claim. The newspaper article claims that the teenagers who do consume caffeine regularly are nearly twice as likely to have sleep-related issues as those who don't. So we're going to take this probability and this one, and we're going to see if this one is twice as big as this one. Now the claim is nearly twice as likely, so let's look at what we get. Okay, so this is called relative risk, and as I said, we will be doing that in class later on. But it's just saying which probability, how many times as likely is it? to find someone with sleep issues. So the probability of sleep issues, given that they have caffeine, over the probability of sleep issues. This really is enough to put me off my evening 10 o'clock cup of coffee if this data is real. Right, there we go. So the big number, the top probability, is 0.6139 divided by 0.3239. So that works out to be 1.89. What that's saying is that we are a student in the survey who has caffeine is 1.89 times as likely to have sleep issues as a student who doesn't have caffeine. Now, the last thing we've got to do to tie this all up is we have to comment on whether we think we agree with the article's claim. So the article's claim was nearly twice as likely. I'd say that 1.89 is nearly twice as likely. So 1.9 times as likely is nearly 2. So the claim is valid, except, so that gets you to an E7 for that question. But there are a couple of problems, okay? So the numbers part is all good, but I want us to think about what the claim is. And if anyone's watching this doing level 3, this is sort of baby statistical reports question. I don't know what's happened here. Something weird's happened. Oh. Okay, there's the spring back. Okay, so the question is saying, discuss whether the school survey provides enough evidence to support the validity of the claim that teenagers in New Zealand, right? And so we haven't really got anything about teenagers in New Zealand. We've got a couple of problems. So the first problem is the survey was just for this school. Doesn't represent all NZ teenagers, right? So there might be differences across schools in sleep issues and caffeine consumption. Right? And you might think that might be because energy drinks are kind of expensive. There might be different factors that affect sleep, right? So the impact of caffeine on sleep might vary with other factors. And we should really say that, right? This is getting up to excellence level thinking, so quite abstract. So the impact on caffeine on sleep, this is appalling, this pen, there, that's better, might vary with other factors. For example, age, right? So we just had senior high school students here. It might be that we need to look at the younger ones as well. The other thing that you could say here, and there are a few other things, but the other thing I thought of is that coffee and energy drinks are not the only things with caffeine, but it's all we got asked about. So one thing that's obvious is that tea has caffeine too. Right, so there are other drinks or ways to get caffeine. All right, that's all from me for tonight. So that's 2 videos. If you're watching the second one, this last part of it is quite full on compared to what we've been doing in class. So if you're keeping up with this, you're doing really well. All of you should be able to do all of the trees, all of the table stuff by now, though.